is it necessary for what is called a black man, a black woman, or a white woman, or a white man, or any ethnic group to marry into their own kind? Biologically, our DNA is different. The environment in which we are raised is different. The climate is different. Some genes are more dominant than others, and some are recessive. And this could be very challenging in a diverse culture. And the reason why I say diverse, because each and every one of our genes, DNA I should say, is different. And we make up this, or we are a part of this universe, in this environment, and that we should be able to coexist with one another. Beyond race, class, gender, economics, politics, and religion. Let's explore this, if I may, just a little bit, the best that I can, and the deep layer question that blends psychology, history, race, gender, and ethics. Let's say a black woman, if she's been hurt, because the ancients say that the first form of worship was of a goddess, I may use that language, was a woman. In the uniqueness of that particular uniqueness of a woman, meaning to be able to bear children. Yes. Let's say of a black woman who is expressing her pain of seeing a black man marry a white woman. We could say that the black man could feel some kind of way when he sees a white or a woman marrying a black man, or a black man marrying a white woman. Either or. I'm trying to bring this together as much best as I can. But the marital relationship, and some people marry for business reasons. Some marry because they maybe like diversity. Some marry because they really care for the individual whom they form this relationship with. Even though marriage is a business, we understand that as well. And some will say that some will conclude that it's about marrying a person that you really care for, you really love. I've come to conclude that you interact with an individual because of you connect with their humanity. You connect with their humanity. And when you connect with a person's humanity, you go beyond race, class, gender, religion, economics, and politics. Connect with their humanity. Yes. But it's still with the black man marrying a white woman, it can feel like both a personal wound and a cultural one. And let's see how this relates. Let's look at it from the historical perspective, historical neglect. During the time of slavery and Jim Crow, where black women were often exploited, unprotected, and dismissed. The black man himself had to go around and prove that he was a man. You know? The culture memory, because I concluded all we have is memory. And how people lived through those eras of interracial marriage, and how certain other ethnic groups or races were not in agreement with those interracial marriages. And not to mention the alligator society that's over in Britain, whereas that you marry into wealth, you know, and create this some of a mulatto type child. And if I go a little further than that, when Alexander went to Egypt, he told his generals to marry the women, and the children started taking on the sentiments of the conquerors. It was a plan. Then you deal with the Moors. They have this fascination with blonde hair and blue-eyed women. Some would say they helped bring down the Moorish Empire, you know. So these interracial marriage and interactions, maybe it wasn't about love. It could be about exploitation, coercion, and survival. Yes. And then we have to deal with the unmet needs. The sense that the black man should partner with, who partner with a different race. And it impacts the struggle as a whole when it comes to the residuals of psychological, emotional, and let's say spiritual decadence, because I think that's what we need. Some people need to be liberated from that. But yeah, so and it takes from it. And but sometimes when you choose partners outside of that, the individual could feel like they had been abandoned and rejected, overlooked, neglected, because they had been abandoned and neglected. Feel that way before, and all it does is just add to the memory, the unmet need, and the trauma. Yes. And I thought I could try to connect this with Erikson theory, one of Erikson theory about the caregiving stage, but it doesn't necessarily connect. But sometimes I have to deal with the past trauma, slave syndrome, which post-traumatic slavery, which Dr. Carew, really a classic book, talking about it. But Erikson theory in the stages, Erikson stages about the lifespan development. The most relevant, it would be generated to the, that what you pass down over generations versus stagnation. And maybe there could be a stagnation in the interracial marriage relationships. The stagnation of the struggle for psychological, emotional, and spiritual liberation. And maybe it could be liberating. I don't know at this stage, But we see now in a society with social media and so forth and so on, we see that it seems as though that either people are out trying to exist each other, or someone needs more attention than anyone else. If you need more attention than anyone else, then that means that you may feel that you have been neglected, and rejected and abandoned. Because you seek that attention, and the way that you seek that attention, you try to get that attention, is probably due forms of your biological specifications or your beauty. Yes, it almost takes on a form of seduction, but yes. But then we deal with the middle adulthood, integrity versus despair. Some people could reflect this type of despair and this stagnation based upon the choices that he or she makes. And we can feel that way even though when we interact with one another, we can also be there physically, but yet we may not be there emotionally and mentally. And that is a form of rejection, yes. And rejecting the social continuity. Now, Dr. Du Bois says that our way of life has been interrupted. And I often say that we must replenish the continuity of our confidence in cooperating with one another. So Nina Fuller said that we must come together we must come together to give each other constructive value. Maybe the value that has been given to us have been destructive. So now we're trying to reconstruct it in some way. And as we try to reconstruct it in some way, in some form, then we may get into interracial marriages. Yes. Yeah. You think about that now. Now, let's look at the psychological slavery and as it pertains to what Malcolm X was saying about how the black women often bore the double burden of racism, sexism. Then I talked about the Frederick Douglass story, how it highlights how sexual exploitation destroys a sense of dignity based upon the choice of a black woman. And in that story, Aunt Esther wanted to interact with someone of her own race or own kind, but yet what we call the slave master would oversee, whatever you want to call him, someone of a different race, force her into sexual engagement, and that which she really did not want. Yes. So now, in this day and age, that they have the opportunity to marry or do what they want to do in a progressive society, that they will participate in this promiscuity of attention and interacting with whomever they want to interact with, because it was denied to them before. Yes. And I don't want to get into the intangibles or the intricacies of possibly what took place amongst our own race during that time. Yes. When a woman said that the black man does not know how to care for the black woman, that's serious. It reflected historical abandonment. Not necessarily that all black men failed, but the memory of being unprotected, it still lingers today. Because at one time it said that the white man used to, during time of slavery, would slash open the belly of a woman who had a child, and the child would fall out. Says if you rebel or do anything, this could happen to you. Always trying to set the example. Let's look at it from contemporary times. Now, maybe explaining it, expressing it not in its as accurate as I need to be. But that's okay. But I just want to make this, express this. Today, the black woman has more agency of freedom in choosing partners. But if those choices come from spite, resentment, or trauma, get back time. Because I often feel that they may have axes to grind, So I'm going to get back time. And when you want to get back time, that's not healthy. I remember I participated in a ceremony, and one lady says, I want you to see what power looks like, and maybe how I received it. And in that gathering was 98% women, But I want you to see what she said. I want you to see what power looked like. It looked like it's almost like it's on get back time, And certain cultures, maybe forbid that type of stuff, But yes. And we got to be careful that we can't be on get back time for one another, because if we both bleed, we all are what? We all are bleeding. So yes, healthy relationships grow from what? Self-worth. That's why my mission is to promote the value of self-worth. Self-worth, mutual respect, and healing. Relationships born out of bitterness. Watch this here. Relationships born out of bitterness or retaliation often repeats the cycle of what? Of pain. Huh? So the first relationship that one must have was him or herself, but he also must form a relationship with the environment in which he lived. Now, if you form a relationship with the environment in which you live, and that's an unhealthy environment, that's not a good thing. And if you form a relationship with yourself, and that's unhealthy, that's not a good thing either. Yes, that's not good. That is unhealthy. On the other hand, interracial love, when genuine, not rooted in trauma or power imbalance, can be signs of what? Of progress. It can be signs of progress. Love not bound by oppressive rules. Not bound by oppressive rules. Now, what comes to mind is how we tend to test the boundaries. But that's the human nature does test boundaries. Yes. So what's going on here? So it is Erickson caregiver stage, no. It is psychological slavery, yes. Partly it is the residue of historical exploitation, abandonment, and internalized wounds. Because we have to deal with self-inflicted wounds. Yes. Is spiteful get back healthy? No. Because healing requires moving beyond trauma, not repeating it in reverse. In short, the feelings of neglect of the black woman, or is expressed, are deeply valid. They're valid. But it stems less from the developmental, because my thing is not to focus on the diagnosis, but focus on human development. The developmental psychology and more from a historical trauma, collective memory, and unresolved wounds of slavery and racism. Now we can see that we need to be liberated from psychological, emotional, and spiritual decay or spiritual decadence. Because when you are liberated from that, you realize that you don't fall short of moral culture decline. They call it recidivism, which means a lack of accountability. Because at the end of it all, we all should form a relationship one with another, that we become accountability partners rather than enabler partners. Healing means creating relationships interracial or intraracial that honor dignity, respect, and self-worth, and not retaliation.